everybody. We're back. Okay, we can... Okay, so we didn't really look up the basis of that, electoral college, but... Okay, so you know how I was talking about, like, Texas values?
Right.
Okay, so... I was watching a debate. Okay, there's a real conservative candidate, Ted Cruz, that's running in. He's pretty infamous in the U.S. Just a lot of people really hate him. I just think he's one of these people. He's such a fucking asshole. I think he's funny, and so there's a Democrat running against him, and. No, there hasn't been a Democrat elected from Texas in 30 years. And so the guy running against him is named Beto. And I was listening to the debate, and I was like, dude, you're too much for Texas.
Too much.
He was too liberal for Texas. Okay, he got in trouble for praising the athletes kneeling, and it's not like he didn't. It's just, he could have indicated. He said something like, "There's nothing more patriotic than taking a knee for something you believe in." Okay, yeah, that's fine. But I'm like, dude, you're running for the Senate from Texas. You need to talk about how much you respect the officer, the fine officers that work so hard for us and stuff, okay? You're running for the Senate. You don't get to say whatever you want. And some of the stuff he, was saying about... It was just going a little bit too far. But what was hilarious was at the end of the debate, both candidates were asked what they like about the other person. And so, okay, see, Ted Cruz is just, he was getting it, man. He's really, really smart, and I thought just really good at, twisting stuff around. And so... They were asked what they admired about the other person, and Beto said, he admired, Cruz's dedication or something, and they each said they admired each other as family, man, that's nice. But so then Ted Cruz said, you know what I admire about Beto is he really believes. He's like Bernie Sanders. He really... And he said that, and so Cruz said, yeah, I did debates with Bernie, and I think Bernie's wrong, but he's really sincere. And so Beto just said, true to form, because we're like, oh my God, that was about the most masterful dog debate thing I've ever seen. Let's just bring up, the liberal socialist that lots of people in Texas hate, and compare Beto to him. But I was like, Beto, you need to, sound a little bit more conservative, man. You need to be a little bit more enthusiastic about guns. So,
That's crazy.
That was sort of funny. And Beto's been to every.
Well, at least they're real about it. If you're gonna come up into Texas and come up liberal like that, I gotta give you props for that.
Well, he's been to every county in Texas. He's the first person to do that since LBJ. And he was saying Cruz isn't. I mean, the thing was he's accusing Cruz of not being that responsive. The thing is, though, Cruz was talking about, there was a school shooting in Texas, and it was right near, and he said he was home, it was right near his house, and so he went down there. He was, there all day, he said, meeting with people, and so, and he's been there for, floods and national disasters and stuff. So, I think he has a pretty good relationship with people in Texas, too. But, it matters to people if you go. But, I love the part about going to all of the counties because I just love Lyndon Johnson's elections so much when he was running for Congress and Senate from Texas, and there's just incredible stories about them like going around, and he had a helicopter after World War II that somebody loaned him. Most people had never even seen a helicopter. I mean, he was going to places where it was like word of mouth that he'd be coming. I mean, people really didn't. I mean, there were still people that, people were like sharing radios. It was like a couple people would go to, like, in order to listen to the radio. I mean, like, there'd be like maybe 5 families at one person's house. So it was really exciting for people to see somebody just coming to see them.
Nice.
Yeah. And Lyndon is just crazy. I mean, he's just infamous for just being like crazy, not sleeping, just driving his staff, just making everybody miserable. But I mean, being miserable himself, but making everybody else miserable too. Okay.
Did you see on the news? I caught the end of it, so I didn't catch the beginning of it. Maybe you might have seen it, where there's some group that they're trying to make that anytime there's like candidates that are going for president and governor, that they're gonna pull up their past to see if they've been like in trouble for any sexual type things.
They do that anyway.
Yeah, but there's like a group that's going, that I guess they came on Fox News and said that they're gonna start doing that from now on, that they're gonna like expose all, like just blatantly expose them. Not like how it is now where it's just like,
so like people that are just like aren't in the public eye and stuff.
Yeah, just.
Oh, I watched Kavanaugh's interview with his wife.
And so that's kind of what's weird to me, because I guess this group is really like, before they, when they start going in there and they're trying to pull and they're, trying to get votes, they're going to pull out something like, hey, bam, Anna did this to somebody back in 1985 or something, and then pull that up on you while you're campaigning. So you'll have to.
Well, that's what it's not so much candidates, because that already happens with candidates.
No,
it always has. Yeah, it does.
It has, but it was more reporters. They're gonna out them though.
I think they're talking about. I think they're also just talking about people in general, because it's always happened to reporters. I mean, to candidates.
Yeah, but I've never seen it blatantly said that they're gonna have a group exposing people. That's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean.
Usually they get exposed, and I understand that they do it, but they kind of.
There's
do it in a sneaky way, but they're saying they're going to do it. Just like, how when they used to have the shows, like that show with, what is his name? Bill Hansen? The show with the child pedophile. You never seen it?
No.
Well, they used to set up people, and they would, someone would act like a little girl online, and they would call you to come to this bait house, and it's a bait house.
Well, people have always dug for dirt on candidates. I think they may have been talking about just like other people in the public eye. But okay, so the problem I have with that is that is that I believe in rehabilitation. I believe in people having a chance. I want like teenage boys to like learn, they can learn.
And that's why I had brought it up to you, because I remember what you said last week.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up. I understand it always happens, and I get that. It happens, but they literally said this group is going to be made to investigate every candidate. That's how they said it. And if they have anything in their background that they did back in the day that they can find, they're going to expose.
I guess it sounds like sort of like making up a, good for them. Good for them
right.
to get on the news, because that's always happened. That's always. That's happened. That happens for hundreds of years. That's what people do in politics.
But just to have a group saying on TV that they're going to do that, I don't know. That's just a little bit more crazy. Usually it's kind of, they do it sneakily and try to go through stuff to find it, but this group said that they're going to out them.
See, the principle that I find troubling is just that, look, okay, what happens to any person in their 50s applying for a job, and then somebody comes back and accuses them of, and that's how to me it's like, it's not about him, it's about that principle. I was talking to my friend Lawrence about it, and I was going, okay, like what happens the next time like a black person is up for a job and somebody brings up like something they did when they were 17, and I was like, well, it was like, well, that must happen like all the fucking time, you know. I mean, it's the whole principle of like, even if, you know, like, okay, you should look at like whether somebody's a productive citizen or like anybody. Are you going to look at like what they've done in the past 20 years or what they're going to do when they were like under 20?
Right.
And so yeah, so that's the problem I have with it, and that I wish it should be about is, you know, I just, you know, like now more people are coming up saying like, okay, he did this in college, but I'm like, come on, okay, then to me that's just so different. Like, okay, you see somebody like Bill Cosby, who was like an adult, that should have, you know, a responsible adult that did this stuff. Like, yeah, he does deserve to go to jail, but I don't know. I watched the interview with Kavanaugh and his wife to try and see if I could figure out whether they were long. I don't know. He just kept. I mean, it was interesting. He just kept.
Yeah, you know, you saw the other lady that came on and said that back in high school, him and his friend flashed her at a high school. Yeah. I'm like, dude, really? See what I'm saying, though? You see what I mean?
Do see what.
How do you even get that? How do you even, you know? I don't know. That's just crazy.
I would not do that. I would not do that, you know, and it's like the people that I'm like, you know, the people that I was around when I was young and they were young, I'm like, okay, we moved on with our lives, and it's like, okay, if they like did something wrong when they were adults, that's going to be found out by people in their adult world. I'm not going to come back and like bring back this childhood thing. Like young adult thing.
Yeah, that's a messy subject.
I mean, I don't think people should be able to be smeared for stuff they did in high school, and that just sucks. Especially, you know, I mean, in that era, there was a lot less understanding, you know, and like now they're, you know, but you know, I mean, well, the good thing, I mean, it's all about the future. To me, I'm like, okay, this makes like, you know, this is like one more good thing for parents to be able to say to their like teenage sons. It's like, okay, don't do shit like this because it's gonna come back at you. And this was I mean, I just can't believe it. They were like going through Kavanaugh's yearbook and looking at stuff. I'm like, oh my god, man! It's like I pretty much have my adolescence like blotted out of my mind. That would be a nightmare. You know, pre-social media, and you know. But then somebody says that he said this. It's like, yeah, you can like believe like teenage boys aren't going to be like lying and like bragging to each other, and I don't know. There's just much better reasons for. I don't know. So, okay, actually, so back to moving on. Okay, we were talking about the United Nations, and okay, beside the first baby and President Trump, Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, spoke, and so. He's kind of interesting because, I mean, as we know, he became the president of Rwanda after the genocide, and he, for a long time, I mean, he was considered to have done a very good job at keeping peace, but there's now more concerns about human rights abuses, and you know, crackdowns on the free press, and so there were 2,000. So in Rwanda this month, 2,000 prisoners were freed, and so an opposition politician named Victory Ingabire, 49, was arrested in 2010 and given a 14-year sentence 2 years later, just for like speaking against the government. And Then there's Diane Wagara, an activist who tried to stand in the 2017 elections, and she was disqualified from running on technical grounds and then arrested on accusations of forgery and inciting insurrection. She denies the allegations but remains in detention. So that's what's going on in Rwanda, and I was listening to the beginning of Paul Kagame's speech, and I think it was kind of a Africa for the Africans sort of things, like, for the West to, like, butt out, which I agree with. So I don't think the West is I don't think the West is helpful. I think that for the most part, I mean, I don't think the West is anything to help human rights to help against human rights abuses. Yeah, there's one surgeon in the entire country of South Sudan that was just given an award. One surgeon. Yeah. Oh, hey, cool. Somebody's watching us.
Yeah, I just peeped on what they say. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oops,
go ahead.
You could probably hit it better than me.
Well, yeah, this is really slow.
I better return high school.
So it shouldn't be used to damage a person's future. Definitely so. Yeah, and I mean, people can get to be better, and can get to be better. I just really believe that it's really important to me, and I met with Congressman John Lewis and talked about that with him, and because I had seen him, an interview with him talking about I sort of said, it was like, it meant so much to me to have somebody like him say love is stronger than hate, and he said yes it is. And so people sometimes people are bashing me for being moderate, but in some respects I feel, I had the privilege of meeting and conversing with Congressman Lewis, so I have to feel, I have to feel that way. I have to be that way. I mean, that was just, I take that seriously.
Shout out to Leo Rodas.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
thank you.
The knowledge.
Thank you. Yeah. I love having Leo's a new friend. Okay, so we talked about Libya, but okay, so talking about oh my God, how can I not have this person's name on here? We have talked before about the 92-year-old president of Malaysia, and I don't have anybody's names right here, but I wish I had these people's names. But so then a couple months ago we were talking about how his one of the opposition leaders was released, and he was a pretty fascinating person. He's the one that was sent to jail for sodomy and corruption, and so that's happened to him twice, both times. And he was an opposition leader, and so I watched an interview with him, and he was pretty amazing, because he got out of prison, and he has agreed to work with the person who put him in prison, the 92-year-old dude, otherwise known as Malaysia's Bernie. And so they've made an agreement to work together, and then in 2 years, I'm so embarrassed I don't have his, Anwar Ibrahim. And then in 2 years he's gonna stand for president. So in the interview they were asking him, well, I mean, how did you forgive? How did you do that? And he said that it took a while, but that as a Muslim, and that as somebody that it was not about him, that he needed to, and it was pretty amazing. He was sounding I was wondering, he kind of was reminding me of like Nelson Mandela. I mean, here's somebody that like got out of prison and worked with the people that put him there. And what he also said, and this is so rare. I've never heard any politician say anything like that, like this. They were asking him about the prison sentence for homosexuality, and he said that he was going to, because it's Sharia law, like this hardcore Islamic law, and he said that it was inhumane, and he was going to work to have those laws repealed. So I was like, wow, you never hear anybody say stuff like that. And he had spoken up against a lesbian couple being caned because he thought it was, and
what is caned exactly?
beat with a cane.
Okay. Oh, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is exactly what it is. That's traditional. There's countries where that happens publicly, and yeah, so that was cool. And he said that I mean, it was just impressive to me that he wasn't like afraid to talk about stuff like that, and that his wife is also a political leader. So that was really interesting. And so they asked him about something she'd said about homosexuality. He's like, she's a very intelligent woman. I agree with everything she said. So I don't know. Malaysia's interesting. Anwar Ibrahim. It's gonna be interesting. Man, that 92-year-old leader looks pretty good too. He doesn't look 92.
He doesn't look that old, man.
Doesn't look a day over 82.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that was that was a very interesting interview. I was just so, he said that they asked him, they were saying like, wait, you said that you wanted to rest and spend time with your family when you get out of prison. He's like, I had lots of time to rest in prison.
Right.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. I would look forward to seeing what happens with him. So, okay, we're going to take another break.
Let's do it.
We'll be back. Thank you, Leo. We'll be back.